I'm going to go through all the steps that I will also go through in class. So this will just be a chance if you miss something. There will also be this series of steps to follow along with. Um, at the top, there's going to be some fonts that can work, and then a couple tools that you're going to be using, and then hotkeys depending on if you're using a Mac or a PC or if you have a mouse or not. Alright, so I'll just kind of get going with this. This is Fusion 360 like I showed you in class. For starters, I'll kind of go over some of the hotkeys. If you have a mouse, like I do, and I recommend using a mouse, but plenty of students don't use one with their Mac or with their PC, and that seems to be fine. With a mouse, in order to zoom in and out, I'm zooming in and out with the roll dial, which is the button in the center of the mouse. If you don't have that, your hotkey to zoom in and out for a Mac would be to pinch. For the Mac, it'll be a two-finger drag any direction, to pan, and then the rotate and orbit will be the shift two fingers. So just kind of look at whatever one, you'll have this sheet, so look whatever one works for you and follow along. Anyway, I'm using the mouse, zooming in and out. If I press Shift and press down on the roll dial, I can pivot around. That's also called rotate in that cheat sheet. That, zooming in and out, and then panning. And with panning, I'm just clicking on the roll dial itself and moving the mouse one direction or the other. Those three things allow you to navigate in this space pretty well. There's also this thing called the view cube over here. If I click on that, I can also drag around in space, and I can also click on the right side or in the corner, and it will reposition as well. It's easy to get kind of turned around, and then you have a little home button right here. If you click that home button, it'll snap you back into place. Okay, so 98% of what we're going to be doing is actually going to be in a two-dimensional plane. So we're seeing this three-dimensional view, and we're looking at three-dimensional space, but most of the time we'll be in a two-dimensional space. So in order to get to there, we're going to do this create sketch, which is the first option right here. I'm skipping over some other things that are kind of important, like file management and saving your design and creating a design project. I think that's okay. We're going to kind of skip over some of those things for this particular assignment. Maybe I will include a tutorial on that. But I want to give you just the important things for this one. So create sketch, and then you are prompted with these three different squares. They're at different angles. So what it's asking you is, which plane would you like to select? It doesn't really matter. I usually select the top one. You can see it corresponds up here, this top view. I usually select that, and once I do that, that'll snap me into a two-dimensional view. So now I'm zooming in and out, and I can just see, it's like I'm kind of looking straight above this design. And you'll note that all of my tools over here have changed. This additionally says sketch is highlighted in blue. That signifies that you are in the sketch mode. Sometimes it's tricky, and it's tricky to know because you kind of bounce back and forth and you forget, like, am I actually in a sketch mode right now, or am I in the three-dimensional view still? Sometimes it gets a little hard. What you're going to do is create a rectangle. So I just selected the Create tab, selected Rectangle, 2-point rectangle. And then I'm zooming out. I'm just going to click and drag. And I'm making this one 2 inches by 2 inches. You can do anywhere between 1 to 4 inches inside. You can do 2 by 4, whatever, but no larger than 4 inches. So that's what you're going to do, is just create a square and then click Finish Sketch. I'm still looking at it in a two-dimensional view. That's why it gets a little confusing. But now I can shift around and look at it in three-dimensional space. The next thing I'm going to do, now that I'm out, because I clicked Finish Sketch, is go up to Insert and Attach, no, sorry, Insert and Canvas. So this is where we're finding that image. So I won't really cover that in this tutorial, but you will have had found an image of some text that you are going to do the engraving for. So I'll click that button there, and then again it's prompting me with which plane would I like to select. Make sure it's the exact same one that you drew your square on. Select that, and then Image, and now here's where I find that image. I already put it in this folder, so it just popped up right away for me. This is what I'm going to be working with. I got it from Brett. Alright, so I'm going to click Open, and zooming in, it's much smaller and it's also flipped around. Well, that's okay, we can fix all those things. We want our design, not necessarily the outside lines, so you'll see that there's actually this white space here. We want just the design portion to be the size of the square we created. So in order to scale it up, I'm just going to click that curved part there at the bottom right corner of the square and click and drag it until it's about this size. And then I click the arrows to position them over the square. It's not facing the right direction, so I'm going to rotate that. And then bring it a little closer. It could be a little bigger. And you want it to be pretty close. It's okay if it's not perfect. You see it goes over a little bit here. This is a guideline for us. We're going to be tracing and creating text that resembles the design. You have the opportunity to embellish too, but that's what this is. We're inputting an image that we can then trace over. You can also import other images, so say you just put some text in there and then you found an interesting silhouette image of something. You can import that and trace over that. So you can get creative and experiment with this. Once it's positioned the way we want it to be, you'll click OK. And now I'm going to create a sketch again. And again, it's really important that I choose the same plane. If you choose a different plane, just stop the sketch and create a whole new sketch. So I'm choosing that same plane, and it snaps me right over it. Now this is interesting because now I have two sketches. So the first sketch was the first time I created a sketch, and that's that square itself. And then the second sketch is the one we are currently in, that we can draw in. There's also the canvas that is in this whole thing over here is called the browser bar. That's the image itself. If we don't want the canvas to be there, which we might not at certain points, we can click the little eyeball to make it go away. And we can do the same thing with these different sketches. Sometimes they get a little hairy. The more complicated the design gets, it gets a little hairier. Alright, once we are in this space, we can start typing in the text. Now, like a cooking show, I already did that part here. So I kind of just eyeballed it, put this, oops. Okay, I put the text editor next to the font and I just kind of typed it along. I probably got a typo in there, but I think it's okay for this. So I would do each line separately. So what you're going to do is copy it, and then back in Fusion, you're going to create and select the text button. Really, you just select over it, and then paste that text into this text box here. You'll see it's probably going to be too big, depends on how big you made your box initially. And with your height dialog, you can scale that down. And then if you click on the little blue dot, you can reposition the text. There are all these different fonts, and you're welcome to experiment with them. Some fonts don't work. What we're going to do is create our font and then do this command called explode text, and some just don't